Hello, I'm Tim Smith with the Adams County Historical Society, and welcome to another Tim's Top 10. And today, I decided we would do the top 10 Gettysburg Battlefield postcards. I'm not sure if anyone is aware of this fact, but being a huge battlefield nerd, I have a collection of Gettysburg Battlefield postcards. I believe this comes from the fact that I was collecting items related to the battle at an early age, and postcards were very inexpensive. There were plenty of flea markets in town and in the area, and so I could buy them very cheaply, and I amassed a large collection early on. I haven't actually counted, but I would say that I have 2,500 different Gettysburg postcards. There were well over 50 local and national companies who produced and or distributed Gettysburg postcards over the years. It really depends upon, how you count. You could research the history of postcards on your own, but the private mailing card was authorized by Congress in 1898. And in my collection, I have at least two of those produced by J.H. Avell of Philadelphia. And we'll show these images as I talk about them. Both of the images I have are from the high water mark, and one is posted in 1900. In 1901, the first postcards were issued with the words postcard on the back. And in 1903, the Detroit Photographic Company issued a Gettysburg Battlefield series. I have a number of these in my collection, including the example that I just showed, featuring the Jenny Wade House, which first came into existence 2 years earlier in 1901. William Tipton, a local photographer who also dabbled in the souvenir business, was among those who sold the first postcards around town. And we have lots of examples of his work that we'll show here on the screen. By the time of the 50th anniversary in 1913, there were perhaps a dozen companies manufacturing Gettysburg postcards that were produced in local gift shops. The postcard has largely been replaced today by social media postings. People still buy postcards as souvenirs around town. But if you're interested in all this, I'll put a link below to a couple of my favorite postcard sites so you can read more about it. So without further ado, here is my top 10 favorite postcards. Number 10, cannon firing at the high water mark. Early on, postcards views were dominated by monuments on the field of Gettysburg. And in recent years, and when I say recent, I mean like when I started collecting postcards, there was an effort made to make postcards aesthetically pleasing. There are more nature scenes that depict the natural beauty of the battle. The setting sun or the rising sun was a very popular theme on early postcards, and we'll show some of them. And as time went on, cameramen realized that he could get the sun setting in front of a cannon barrel and get a photograph that appeared as if the cannon was firing. And so number 10, according to the back mark, the setting sun momentarily recalls the flaming fury once spewed by this long-stilled Union cannon on Cemetery Ridge. And it was produced by Eastern National Parks and Monuments Association, I believe, in the 1970s. Number 9 is my transposed or backwards image of Little Round Top on a card. It's simply captioned, "A view of Little Round Top," and produced by Americana Souvenirs, I believe in the 1980s. When I got this one, I immediately noticed that something was a little bit off. The image is transposed or reversed. If you know Little Round Top, you know that the 44th New York monument, the castle, is on the south side of the hill and not the north side of the hill. And of course the Bushman Farm, which dominates the foreground, is also backwards. I have several of these transposed views in my collection that actually made it onto the printed card. Number 8, the Union News Company and the National Cemetery. This is a very interesting card we'll show up here on the view. And it's posted in, let's see, around the 50th anniversary of the battle. The view that we're showing here depicts the enlarged Bryan House after its addition. It shows the metal observation tower on Cemetery Ridge and the 111th New York monument in the view. And of course, like the other views, many of the other views in the series, it's captioned as being in a national cemetery at Gettysburg. And a lot of people on these postcard sites have put these views up and said, hey, they're taken in the national cemetery. And I'll show another one from that same series. What is really interesting is they do have a postcard of a view taken in the national cemetery, and it's identified as being on the Gettysburg Battlefield. So I find that very interesting. I can see that some of you are already thinking that this list is actually going to be Tim's favorite Gettysburg postcard errors. And I have to admit that that's not a totally inaccurate statement. Number 7, made by the Rotograph Company, and it is West Confederate Avenue, it says on the back. And this is also around the time of the anniversary. I think I have some of these rotographed that are from like 1909 or 1910. This one actually shows South Confederate Avenue and not West Confederate Avenue. I remember when I first got this, I couldn't figure out where it is. Nowhere on Confederate Avenue are there rocks like that stick out into the road. And of course, I realized that this is a stretch of the road that no longer exists and has been replaced by a road that was constructed in 1939, 1940 at the base of Big Round Top. And I remember how happy I was when I figured out where that road was and found this particular rock that we'll show, and I have a picture of my son as a kid in front of that rock. But I actually found this site when I was a teenager. Rotograph has some beautiful cards. And I should mention that photographs were taken on the Gettysburg Battlefield. And then these photographs were sent to Germany, where they printed these cards, and then they were sent back to New York City so that the distributor could put their back mark on them, and then they were sent to Gettysburg, where they were sold in local gift shops. So the image already traveled around the world before it was even sold to the tourist, which I find rather fascinating. Number 6 is William Tipton's General Lee's headquarters. This image is actually part of a series of Gettysburg postcards called Tipton's Quality Gettysburg Postcard Series, or the TQ series. It's a series of 12 postcard views that were purchased together in an envelope. You could not buy them separately. These images feature sort of a cameo view on a yellowish beige background. The photographs taken by William Tipton were printed in Saxony and then published by William Tipton for the exclusive use of the Eagle Hotel souvenir stand on Chambersburg Street. And it's kind of interesting, an aside to this is the earliest view, I should say, I've seen of these is 1911. I used this particular image of Lee's headquarters on the front of my book, The Story of Lee's Headquarters, published in 1995. So I don't think that people realize the cover of my book is actually William Tipton's postcard from the early 1900s. Number 5, the Eternal Light Peace Memorial Light Bulb. When I first became a licensed battlefield guide, I used to carry this postcard around with me in my pocket. And when we stopped at the Peace Light, I would show people that the Eternal Light Peace Memorial, which is now a flame, was once a light bulb. In the wake of the oil embargo of 1973, the flame was extinguished. And in 1976, an electric lamp was attached to the memorial. And for 12 years, this giant light bulb illuminated the sky on Oak Hill. In 1988, after years of public outcry, the light bulb was removed and the gas light was finally rekindled. We'll put in the link in the description, a link in the description below, to a video we recently released on the Peace Light and the local efforts that led to the relighting of the Peace Light in July 1988. Number 4, general view of Gettysburg, Pennsylvania in 1863. And if you look at this card, you can kind of see that the card appears to be a view of Gettysburg from like the unfinished railroad embankment west of town near Lee's headquarters. The card was part of a series published by A.C. Boozelman around the 50th anniversary of the battle. I remember when I first got this card from a Gettysburg flea market, and I was so excited. I knew right away that something was wrong. On the caption, it really is interesting. On the back of it, it says, "This picture is reproduced from the original photo taken by staff photographer of the U.S. War Department on July 1st, 1863, and shows Gettysburg exactly as it appeared on the eve of the great battle." Okay. For a moment, let's put aside the fact that there was no such thing as a War Department staff photographer in July of 1863. And there's absolutely no way that anyone was recording an image of the Gettysburg Battlefield the morning of the battle. But this is clearly not even Gettysburg. It is Fredericksburg, Virginia, from Mary's Heights, taken in 1864, and I'll put up this image so you can see they're the same image. The same series also contains an image of General Meade and his staff, supposedly taken on June 29th, 1863, by the same staff photographer, the day after General Meade took command of the Army. It is not. It's actually an 1864 image. And there's an image in the series of the Harvest of Death, and one of the 3 Confederate prisoners on Seminary Ridge. So using some Gardner and Brady views in the series. Number 3, the Bluebird on the Cannon Barrel by Americana Souvenirs, published in the late 1980s. And again, this is one that I would often carry around to talk about on my tours. And you may know I did lots and lots and lots of tours with 5th graders and 8th graders. And oftentimes in the spring, I would be riding my bus down Confederate Avenue, and I would see a bird's nest in one of the cannon barrels. So I would stop the bus, and I would point the kids and draw their attention to the fact that the cannon was being used as a bird's nest. And I would make some dramatic statement like, These cannons were constructed by man for one purpose: to kill. And today, the very same cannon barrels are all over our national parks, and they're birds' nests, and they give life, something for which they were specifically not designed to do. And then I might say, we should all write a poem, something like that. But people love that story about the birds and the cannon barrels. Number 2, this card was published by the American News Company, and mine is actually posted on August 11th, 1909. Again, these postcards were often printed in Germany, and there must have been some kind of translation error, because the Lutheran Theological Seminary is labeled here as the Geological Seminary, the place in Gettysburg where students go to study the rocks of Devil's Den and our local geology. The Geological Seminary. And I think a lot of people, this is their favorite. But number 1, Blocker's linen postcard of the wheatfield. So I really like the fact that postcards are in color. And, they take black and white images and they colorize them on these extremely fancy printing presses to make these cards. And again, at first, it was being done in Europe. And I'm told the reason for this was because different countries besides the United States had allowed postal cards to be published and sold and mailed much earlier than the United States. So it took a while for the United States to catch up. And after World War I, we're not printing cards in Germany anymore, so it's done in the United States. The linen card became very popular. And, just let me mention that the wheatfield, on the second day of the battle, the wheatfield changed hands 6 times. Men charged back and forth across the wheatfield, and at the end of the second day, the dead were everywhere. And I often say that the wheatfield is the bloodiest single spot in the bloodiest day of the bloodiest battle, in the bloodiest war in American history. And when they created that view into a linen postcard, they decided to colorize it and make it pretty. So the bloodiest spot on the battlefield became a flower garden. And I think anyone who sees this card and knows the story is taken by that. So what do you think? Does anyone else have their favorite postcard images of the battlefield? And you can maybe discuss them or post them in the comments below, or send them to us at your leisure, a picture of them so we can see them. And again, you're able to create your own top 10 lists in the comments for everyone watching to enjoy. If you like the content that we put on our YouTube channel, please like and subscribe.